All right. Okay, so I guess we can start from where you're from, like how you started.
Originally, I am from the city of Mexico, Mexico City, DF. That's where I was born. I was born in 1974. But my father was a police officer in Mexico, and when he left Mexico in the police force, we went back to where my mother was born, which is in the province, in the state of Guerrero. The province in Mexico, as you know, is very poor. Where I'm from, where I grew up in, there's no running water, no electricity, and that's where my mother's from. My mother is, she's a Mixteca, an Indian from Mexico, and my father is a Mexican, a normal, everyday Mexican, and from this, he's also from Guerrero, but he grew up in the city. My dad was a boxer and he's a military guy, and when he went to Egypt and Saudi Arabia, he realized he could make a lot of money, but he didn't have an education. So when he left that detail, he lost the job because he couldn't speak English. He came to the United States illegally to pick oranges. Then he brought his whole family over. Myself, I was 4 and a half at the time, 1979. And he brought his whole family over illegally to the United States to work in the fields, tobacco fields in North Carolina at that time. As a kindergartner, there were only 3 minorities in the school. Myself, my brother Juan, and then another kid named Patrick. And let's just say it was very brutal every day. It was a fight. You always lost them because it was people picking on you. My mom would pack our lunch, but because we were Mexicans, they didn't let us eat our own lunch. They would throw away our lunch, the teachers would, and be like, you're an American now, eat American food. They, during the nap time, even as a kindergarten, they didn't let us sleep. They would make us stand because they said they didn't speak Spanish, so they didn't know how to deal with us if we fell asleep. But the good thing was that the adaptation was made a little easier by teachers who really cared. So not all the teachers were that way, but the ones who cared had to break rules. They had to not do what was expected of them from administration, but they did their own thing. And those were the teachers that started helping us. It became a little easier when we moved to Houston or when we go to California because everybody spoke Spanish there. Foods became more available. Even simple things like spices and peppers started to become a little bit more available and ubiquitous. So you were able to make foods that you ate. By the late 1980s, you were able to find stores, Mexican stores, that had ingredients from home, and that was a big improvement. In the 1980s, we had the reform of immigration by Ronald Reagan, that my father became legal by then. By the late 1980s, I got older, so it wasn't that big of a deal. You learn how to navigate that world and not be afraid anymore. So it's both me growing up and the United States growing up. When I went back home illegally to Mexico in 1995, and then if I would have gotten caught, it was a 6-month prison term that I would have had to serve in federal penitentiary. So it became where you became criminalized. Prior to that, you were just illegal. Then you became criminalized, and you were breaking a federal law. And so I went still, and I still went and came back across the border illegally again, and finished my last semester in college. But after 9/11, it became very xenophobic, very anti-immigrant, and then everybody was a potential terrorist. Before that, it was like, in 1991, I was working as a laborer, planting shrubs and grass and doing landscape at Camp Lejeune. Like a van full of Mexicans, all of us illegals would just go into Camp Lejeune, and nobody would even check our IDs. Nothing ever bad ever happened. But there wasn't the fear. So take that, 1991 to 10 years later, and then everybody is super paranoid and is afraid of foreigners, or anybody who isn't white, to be quite honest with you. Anybody who looks foreign. And so then, I would have never gone to college today, if I was a high schooler today, regardless of the fact that I did extremely well on all my tests, regardless of the fact that I aced everything, I wouldn't have gone to college because everybody's so paranoid, and it's okay to be fearful. So in the late 90s, early 90s, it wasn't. So things have become much harder because of that.
I really don't. Let's see. I guess the people that helped me were always teachers.
teachers, individuals who were in a position to help me. I remember, I mean, I can name all the teachers. I can remember my second grade teacher, even my kindergarten teacher. But when I got older, it was my biology teacher, Mrs. Portier. And she really helped me see, I was a little bit of an angry kid. She helped me see what I needed to. At that time, I was a trouble kid, getting into all kinds of trouble, and she basically got in my face and said something to the effect that that she was a biology teacher because as a black young woman, she couldn't do much more. She wasn't allowed to. And that I had many more opportunities than she did. So I needed to be a little more ambitious, a little more focused, more driven. So I'd say in terms of injustice, it was between the nuns in the Catholic Church and who really helped us. I mean, they would go to the grocery store with us, the nuns would, and so my father wouldn't get cheated when he cashed his check. And the teachers helped me in the school and navigating, because it was very easy when I was in high school and in the middle school to get into trouble and then always be the path of least resistance for administration. If if 4 people were in a fight, 3 people were in a fight, 2 people were in a fight, they'd always pick the one whose parents didn't speak English, whose parents couldn't defend them, and they'd get, the book thrown at them, and everybody else just kind of got his attention. And it was the teachers that helped me out with that. I remember that night, the police surrounded our trailer, and they wanted to come in, and my brother Juan and I, he was at East Carolina University at the time, and I was at Appalachian. We came out, it was Christmas break, and we came out, and we're like, well, no, you can't come in. And the police officer was very upset that we would say he couldn't come in. And then I stepped up and said, you need a warrant to come into this home. And he pulled a gun on me and put a gun to my head, pulled me to the ground, and was threatened. And what got him in trouble with the superiors eventually was that he said, that's what's wrong when you educate Mexicans. He said that to me, but the other officers had to fight him off of me. And so I was a 19, 20-year-old young man, and he had a gun to my head. I was on the floor, and my mom was screaming, of course, and my dad was screaming, and my brothers were upset. And the police officers, the other officers actually fought them, wrestled them off of me, because the guy had lost it. The fact that I stood up, the fact that I said anything, just upset him so much. And it was an all-white police force, and they were very upset. He particularly, the first two guys were there. They fought him off, and they pulled him off of me. And to have a gun to your head is just a very scary moment. And I have had a lot of those moments like that, always with the police. And it was always where immediately it escalated. Things by me asking questions such as, what did I do wrong, officer? Or, and I always have my hands up, and I was like, what did I do wrong? And immediately they just don't even want to, why are you even asking? When you know your rights, that's the injustice, is that you feel then that there's a systematic work against you. Well, one of the most important things that anybody can do is educate themselves. My brother, one of my little brothers is a lawyer, and my older brother and I were very good about learning and reading all the laws. Every state has to publish laws, and the laws have to be available to the general public. One of the most important things anybody can do in fighting injustice is becoming very well read in the laws, the rules. It's easy to do the research. The English is really not that hard. And understanding laws is one of the most important things you can do to defend yourself and to fight against injustice. I believe once I answered that, the difference I would encourage young people to do is to not be like me, in the sense that I was always an academic. I was always in my books and never wanted to, I just wanted it to be normal. And I thought that by being normal, it meant that as long as I didn't ruffle any feathers or rock the boat, as long as I didn't protest, that everybody was going to leave me alone and I was just going to be able to be myself. But that's the wrong approach, because if everybody who has an education does that, if everybody becomes calm and collected and just minds their own business, then one day it is going to affect you. And when that happens, it's going to affect you, and you're not going to have any recourse, or you're not going to have any experience. And so the problem with the example I gave is that I've always private, very quiet, to myself, doing my own thing. But when you do that, you don't have the experience of actually fighting the injustices. You may be able to deal with them, but you're not going to make a difference with them. So my recommendation to young people is to be educated on the laws, prepare yourself formally in the laws, and then make a habit, a practice of fighting injustices, not little ones, not big ones, but whatever is important to you. I think it's a misnomer to believe that only the people who are affected by injustice should be doing something about it. Because if that's the case, then the rest of us are never going to do anything. And then when we do something, then it's only out of self-interest, which isn't fighting injustice, that's just fighting unfairness. And that's the difference.